Hello, thanks, Rob, and hello, Errol. Um, I have a great privilege today, again, to introduce Errol Benvie, who heads up Wisdom Lab, which is I don't know if I'm going to do you justice now, Errol, uh, involved in leadership training at a senior level. I myself have been one of the beneficiaries of Errol's wisdom. Wisdom Lab, I think it's fair to say, was founded on the rather novel idea that leadership is about human beings. And key to that, of course, is how our brains work. One of the things that Errol's taught me many things, and one of the things that was probably seminal for me was the idea of the Harvard psychologist Robert Keegan, who said that the process of adult development, I guess all development, is a process of taking that which is subject, which owns you, and making it object, being able to look at it. And we can trace that through our developmental years. And of course, the most important thing of all is our brains. And that topic, of course, is of particular interest to us ADHDers, because gaining agency over one's brain, being able to understand how it works, how it's different, and how most people's brains work is critical. So, Errol, it is my great pleasure to introduce you.
Everyone can see the slide. Yeah, so a little bit about me, following what Andrew said. I think I've always, I had a corporate career in South Africa and some CEO roles, and I had an ambition to be only a CEO. Definitely not because I wanted to be important, but I figured if I was a CEO, I could have play dates every day, running companies with lots of people and do some really cool things. And I did that for a while. I've been in this second career, and I went to Sydney University and got a master's in applied psych coaching, and started the second career where what I want to do. I found something very profoundly interesting at Sydney Uni in 2006, and that was every bit of gut feel that I'd had for all those corporate years. A number of academics, a lot of them, had written multiple papers and had given names and labels to exactly what I had a gut feel about and didn't know what it was called. And I was really angry. I was like, no, why didn't somebody come and tell me? So my vision for the last 20 years has been to go and sort of look in academia, not like an academic, but go and ferret around for cool bits of knowledge and come back and be the person I wish I'd met to help me in the role in organizations. And I think I'm sort of somewhere between 1,000 and not close to 2,000, but over 1,000 people I've worked with, talked to, and many of them individually in the last 20 years. And I tell almost every one of them that that I'm experimenting on them, and that the next client will get the value of theirs. And all my clients who stay tend to like that. I think some people feel that I can't be that good if I'm continuing to experiment. So, and they may not like that, but so that's where we've been. What is a play date? We're going to explore the value of the predictive brain model, which is pervasive across the world of neuroscience, cognitive neuroscience. Remember, there's some schools in neuroscience. There's the neurons and then the layout and the systems. And cognitive neuroscience is the models on how we think the brain thinks and operates. And then we're going to make some very speculative suggestions about how ADHD may be involved in the predictive model. And that's what Andrew persuaded me or invited me to come and do this talk, was about really seeing whether he loves this stuff. So it might be a sample of two of us. I hope everybody else gets a flavor for it. But it's definitely unusual. It's rare that I think I don't hear too many presentations that are wanting you to say, you've got this device, It will run your life from the cradle to the grave and not ask you for a moment's input. That's how it's made, because thousands of years ago, we didn't even have enough knowledge to give any input, and we got here. So it guarantees we'll do that. It's fine when yesterday looks much like tomorrow, or tomorrow looks like yesterday, things look okay. But when tomorrow looks different to yesterday, the brain's model is slow, not quite evolutionary slow, but the brain's model is really particularly slow. And I'm proposing that all of us should have a play date, get up close and personal with the device, have a look under the hood, and see whether we can't intervene. And intervene is really, really just reflection. But it is deliberate reflection, reflection with purpose, reflection with some science behind the reflection, by being able to understand a little bit about the brain. There's a lot on these slides, and I didn't try and take it off, because I thought the video is going up and you'll be able to watch it again with the audio. And I think people who do want to get more out of it will definitely get more from multiple watching. That's if you thought it was good enough in the first place. I know Andrew's a fan, so I'm just looking at his face, and it's familiar to me. So, but as we were going to do when we had longer time, I was going to say to Andrew, you are the audience, interrupt me and make some questions and slow me down if I'm talking too quickly. But we may not have too much time for that. But let's move on. And okay, there's the device, a little picture I bought. I didn't steal it, and didn't cost very much. And we have the executive function. Now, most of us know now this is a relatively new, couple of decades where we've had technology that's allowed us to know where it is, just behind your forehead, above your eyes. There's multiple places in there. It isn't just one place. And what does it do? Well, it thinks. Only that part thinks, because as in organizations, the executives think and the rest of the organizations do all the work. The brain's much like that. So the thinking happens in that region and everything else happens elsewhere. What are we going to do in the play date? Well, this is how we play. We're going to think about thinking, and I'm hoping that your thinking brain has been following me along, going, what's he talking about? This is strange, and so on. And this is where we're off to. So all right, if I I have to click the right screen to make it go forward. If I click the one I'm watching at, it's not going to go forward. There we go. I just have to hide something on my screen. So it's really a bit of a tutorial. It's a story tutorial. The presentation introduces two universal ways of learning. This is Alison Gopnik's work. She's at UC Berkeley, and she wrote a book with it's a hard read, but a fabulous title, The Philosophical Baby, What Children's Minds Tell Us About Truth, Love, and the Meaning of Life. And so the ideas are that we explore the world in a fundamentally different brain function as we exploit. Now, I have to say very clearly, exploiting is terrible in our culture because it's what we do, it's what bad people do. But actually, if you think that you took all the knowledge you've accumulated and exploited it in a good way for your own benefit, just like a bad person, you'd get a lot of benefit. And that's how the term is meant to be. So exploration creates new ideas, adopts to complexity, and exploiting uses all the learned stuff, all the stuff we've accumulated to be the good person in our society and the one that the world wants. We're going to take a look under the hood at the predictive model. Those of you familiar with AI, the predictive model is similar to unsupervised learning, and as I said, it's pervasive amongst the world's reputable cognitive neuroscience laboratories. It's been around 20 years, but less, and it's more or less what they think works. Of course, Alan Turing knew about it in the 50s, never told anybody, but we had behaviorists then. So And then finally, we're going to see whether we can make a possible interpretation, just a bit of fun, to see whether we can have a look at their predictive model and how it works with ADHD challenges. Now, you might say, well, is this specifically an ADHD presentation? Well, ADHD have ordinary brains that are slightly diverse, and this is for all brains. So here are the two models of thinking. We've got some exploring children, and that's what they do. There's curiosity, builds hypotheses. Children are the fastest, most effective learners in our universe or our known time. They go from a standing start to discovering the entire world and become adults through this extended childhood. It's extended because the primates had much shorter childhood. Then we have this idea that and so adults exploit these people at that desk with lots of pre-knowledge they've gained already, and their job is efficiency, mastery. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to remove complexity so that they can control outcomes, and the children are trying to integrate complexity because they know it's super valuable. Taking these two models, let's translate them to the world. And the exploiting 20th century was the perfect place for this exploit model. And today's world, we believe, is the perfect place when we have to address complexity to use the exploration. So I found some just to represent that. And that looks exactly like the 20th century. And that's what we're looking to do. And I found this picture that I thought was a pretty good representation of today's world. You see it's all suitably networked. Everybody's standing around thinking. The people in the other picture are not standing around thinking. They're all in those buildings doing hard work. So this is a representation of two different modes. So we're going to get into the exploit model. It's really very simple, right? There's the brain, there's the world right in front of it. And so this is what we did in the 20th century very effectively. We didn't know where anything was. We said it had a very left and a very right and all sorts of things, and we had simple views because we didn't have the technology. And largely it was just a black hole, or it was generally a space. But we knew how to exploit the world's knowledge, the technology and the knowledge. And so this is a great quote. It says, "We do not see the world as it is. We don't actually see reality. We only see the world with ourselves as we are." So this brain doesn't see the world with anything other than who it already is. And it already is. It's already learned. It's had training, education, universities, all the courses, years of experience. It sits within a culture where it's with other people who have similar culture coding, and that it feels is more safe. And and it doesn't always like the other cultures. And then, of course, the really key part is the self-identity. And then, so what happens is the world sends the signals, we process it, and we behave back. I'm going to move on. That's very simple, but that is literally how the world has worked. We just receive the signals. We think the brain works like that. It looks like that. It can work like that, but that's not the way it really works. So let's get into the predictive model. There's our prediction from the executive function. And what a prediction is, now I'm going to leave the under the hood for the moment and just work on what happens from the sense. The brain is constantly worried about preparing you for now, next, and not that much of tomorrow. And you worry about next week, but it's not concerned about next week. It lives in the moment. We say live in the moment. The brain literally lives in the moment, but it's always scared about the moment because all it has is bad memories, whereas we can say, oh, well, we can do something with that memory. And what it does is when it makes that prediction, it comes out with a conviction rating. In the science, it's called a precision rating, and it says, I'm 8 out of 10 sure about what I think is going to happen. This is the brain. This is all mostly unconscious. It also says, if that 8's correct, I'm going to have some behavior that I'm going to execute. Then the world gives a signal, and what happens after that signal is the behavior is confirmed. It does whatever it was going to do, and it sends error reports. And because it's got an 8 and it's so convinced it's right, there's an error report of 2, which we'll come to is not a whole lot of error reports. So we're really short on time, but I'm just getting that idea of the loop. The whole purpose of the brain to really get it growing and developing is for us to get more error reports.
So, Errol, if I could just quickly frame
please.
that as so what you're saying is that the brain is constantly making predictions.
Yeah.
And provided those predictions are correct, it's happy. And when those predictions prove incorrect, depending on how serious that incorrectness is, it will get this error report, which it then deals with. So it's busy all the time.
It's busy all the time doing the thinking forward, but different people are concerned with what it gets back. Some people don't like what it gets back and they're willing to ignore it. And that's because they give out a very strong confidence, and then they try and resist getting anything back. And curious people give out a very lower one, which I'll come to in a minute. So here are the two models, and let's look at it like this. So the one on the left is a highly confident person, gives out 8, gets 2 back, which it may or may not ignore because it was so confident anyway. The person on the right is curious, and they will say, I'm just going to think lightly about my prediction, and I'm going to have intentional behaviors that are tentative. And then I'm hoping to goodness I get 7 error reports back because I know those are gold. I know those are the things I really want to have to change. So the error reports are like feedback. And so this is the exploring mind on the right, because you can't explore anything if you keep on rejecting anything you get back from the world. If you say, oh, I know what's going on in this world, well, you're not exploring it. You're just walking around. If you go, I'm dying to know what's going on with it, you won't know unless you give it a go. So the prediction is a constant, busy process happening in seconds, presuming and giving everything a go. But if people don't want to give it a go, they then just reject what comes back. And so
just to dwell on that prediction and the error thing for just one more sec, and even at the most banal level of I'm sitting in a room, the door opens, I'm expecting to see my son, but it's not my son, it's you. That's at a day-to-day level, that would be an example of an error report. I might get, if I really didn't expect you, I'd get a big shock, and then I would perhaps, in a way, experience some sort of cognitive dissonance in a way, wouldn't I? Or was that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's a kind of error report that is expecting an event. Okay, but sometimes I might presume or have a first impression of you, and I've thought that, well, I just took a dislike, and then you provide me an error report that you're a good man. Okay, or vice versa, which happens, right? So it's beliefs, it's anything, and grief works in there. This is a completely different topic, but there's just can't think of the name, but it's can't think of the name. But anyway, this works. There's a model of grief. But going back to this quickly, what I want to show is that that the guys at the table, let's just say they're engineers, right? they really have a good education in engineering. So they are validly having a good confidence they know about engineering. But the two error reports is they need to know, and they're building a bridge, they want to know how wide the bridge is. Well, of course, they don't know that from their training. That's the bridge that's in front of them. And so they've mixed the world in a ratio of 8 to 2, 8 to all their knowledge and 2 how wide the bridge is, validly. This chap over here, he's stubborn. He doesn't want to know the error reports, or he's arrogant. He does not want any error reports. So there's an invalid overconfidence with the same score. Over here is obviously the curious and the children. If children had to do this, they wouldn't become useful adults if they do this. And I missed the little reference. Alison Gopnik's got a book called The Gardeners and the Carpenters. She wrote in 2016, and she talks about parenting. Now, I'm not wanting to get involved in a parenting thing, but her proposition is if we parent children too soon here, they don't develop. We have to parent them there in a very specific way. If we try and make them ready for life too soon, we're doing this, because life will come, but life will come when we have enough knowledge in that bubble we saw earlier. I'm really getting a little behind. Okay, so under the hood, here we go. Did you see how I expanded the executive function so we can have a look inside of it? Now, this is a fascinating idea of where do the predictions come from? That's what we're looking at, right? And the predictions, that's everybody, even good thinkers, that's our training education we saw earlier. And so what we have in the brain is that what it does is the previous error reports gave it a good view of the world, but it doesn't know what's going to happen next. So next it draws out of its knowledge options or guesses. So it says there are 4 possible guesses for what's going to happen next based on all the previous error reports I got in this loop. And these loops can happen incredibly quickly, intermittently, and they're completely unconscious. They just go for it, right? What happens is and then it runs them through, the technical term is a Bayesian inference device, but it's a probability precision ranking. And then what it does is it ranks those, and it ranks those guesses based on previous experience, also based on emotion. So it'll rank one based on a negative experience higher than one based on a positive experience. Anyway, we've known human brains are erratic. You're looking at a picture as to possibly why. And so it goes DCA and it gets A, and then of course A then defines the prediction.
And you mentioned unsupervised learning. That looks a lot like unsupervised learning.
That is definitely unsupervised learning, yes, in the AI term. And as I said, Turing knew about this, that the brain looked like this in the 1950s. He would not be surprised at this 70 years ago. So yes, that's how I designed AI. He just didn't tell the rest of the world because the rest of the world were very, very keen on behaviorism. They said that you can only understand the brain by behavior alone. And those of you will be surprised with this piece of information. From around the 50s into the early 90s, you could not get $1 in the Western world for research on consciousness. It was banned. They just wanted a black box. But now we don't have time and we can't go down rabbit hole.
Keep going.
So now we're going to have a look at the ADHD, and I've chosen 3 quite basic ideas: inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. And honestly, this is an illustration. This is a bit of fun so that we can have a look at what those 3 things may look like in this model. For some of them, there's some good research, but I don't want to start a contentious discussion, and this one is bound to. So let's have this is really a good
let's
play. We're really playing now. This is our speculative fun. So
I'm up for a contentious discussion.
You're up for a contentious play.
Yeah.
Okay. Imprecise weighting. So this is what inattention is. Imprecise weighting, competing predictions. ADHD may be involved in assigning stable precision And so what we're saying is that we think this probability and precision ranking may not get it perfectly right, and we have our guesses come through, and then our guesses are not differentiating, and they're very confusing. And so pretty much all of those are firing. They're getting caught there. We have a prediction. There's a low conviction in inattention because I'm not attending to anything, so I'm not confident about anything. I have uncertain behavior. I have inattention, and then I have a feedback. But there's nothing really in the feedback loop that I can catch on to until I can focus. So it sounds okay. Well, this looks pop and psych, but it's just fun. We're just having a look at the model. Next, we'll go quickly to
a preponderance of guesses and options is certainly what this ADHD brain feels like a lot of the time.
Yes, and it's not always visible on the outside, and then it looks like a whole lot of other things, and there's the judgment and all of that coming along. So yeah,
sure.
Impulsivity, we thought looks a bit like this. So there's a problem with the probability thing, and there's a problem with the guesses, and so they're all halfway through. They're incomplete. And all of a sudden, the brain decides it's going to just pick a random guess, even if it hasn't arrived, and it's going to shoot its way through a prediction. It's going to say, I'm damn sure about whatever I'm going to do, and I'm doing it to the best of my ability. And it's erratic behavior, sometimes inappropriate, impulsivity. And again, not much coming back of any sense because I'm so busy with my impulse, I didn't hear a thing. There we go. And hyperactivity, this one is a very hyperactive side, which I quite enjoyed making. So there we get all three going along. Basically the probability thing's turned off. It's not even working. So just look at the description of hyperactivity in this model. It's active sampling to reduce uncertainty. In other words, the brain is dying for an error report, but because it didn't get error reports properly. So it says, let me bounce my body around, because remember, 1,000 years ago, we didn't think like this. We thought with our bodies. We're completely embodied, and we were thinking with our bodies. We went and did something. We didn't read books or anything. So pretty much the brain is doing something. I'm just hoping to goodness I'm going to get an error report. So what happens is it gets there. There's no ranking. They all crowd there. Then of course it doesn't have one prediction. It has a whole lot, and then it has all the feedbacks of all the different predictions. But I was just having fun showing how busy and hyperactive my slide was. So it's all good.
And how hyperactive I am. I can promise you that as I'm sitting and doing all these presentations and so on, my two legs are.
Well, there you go. You should tell your legs that it's hopeless to expect any feedback by stamping your feet because you're not a child.
Errol, this is
anyway. So let's just look at this. This is called, and I didn't even put a title on here, peeling back the veil. So everything we've shown you for the ordinary person for 200,000, well, 70,000 years, because we came up with language about 70,000 years ago. For 200, we were hanging around literally, okay? But about 70,000 years ago, we came up with language and emotion and empathy and all of that. Yuval Harari's Sapiens book has 4 very lovely categories on human development. It's really worth getting a summary of it. Anyway, so what we're going to do is just quickly have a look. I've only got a very small amount left. I can see we're a little over. And really it's saying, how do we access this machine? How do we get into it? Because there are people who don't want to get into it, and we should respect them, because it gives you cortisol doing this. I mean, there's the dopaminergic. Another model of all this is dopaminergic aspects of this whole system. This model doesn't discount that. It's just looking at a mechanism, and all models are wrong. Some are useful. We think this one's useful. So the first step we do is we peel back the veil in our first amount of reflection, and we start getting a close look at the world and see whether we can consciously see what signals the brain is going to get from the world. And we have a very good look at our behavior. Because if our behavior is counterproductive, we're just going to get lemons in the error report. Okay? So we've got to work on those two things, what the world is saying to us and what our behaviors are. And that we don't even have to look in our brains for that. That's that external base of reflection. The next aspect of reflection is to study how sure we are of ourselves and to try and say, I'm just going to pause on that. I'm going to suspend my feeling that I must be right. A big challenge for ADHD people, granted, this is part of where the predictive stuff, because if you look at this picture and you put it over one of the ADHD pictures, you can see how hard it is when you've got 4 predictions coming out or one that wasn't even evaluated. So we can get an idea how hard this reflection is for ADHD people. But nevertheless, this is the process. We're peeling back the veil. The next veil we can peel back is how to pay attention to our error reports, to really say there's gold in those things. Let's feel it. And this comes through the gut. The body sends this information. The brain sends information to the body, and then we feel the body. So it's back to front. We don't have an emotion first. We have something happening, then the brain makes us feel an emotion to tell us what's happening. Sounds a bit weird, but it's very cool. So pay attention to those error reports, they're gold. Lowering the conviction, upping the error reports makes us reflective and responsible. And then this is the highest level, and that's to start looking in and understanding the guesses. And I think I'm done.
Fantastic. Well done. That is. I'm sorry we ran so short of time with the
You
various
did give me an
issues
extra
we've
7
had.
minutes, which I'm grateful for.
Well, I've got now literally been told by production I have to say goodbye within a minute. So, Errol, thank you. What I will say is we will put your presentation up on the website, and we will have you on ADHD TV because there is much gold in this work. And thank
I
you
hope
so much.
everybody enjoyed it. I know I speak fast, but if you can actually run the video on 0.75 speed, and then I can drag along if you like. Thanks, everyone. And
Thanks very much.
I never met anybody, but it was lovely to appear here. And thank you, Andrew, for the invite.
No worries. Thank you.
Take care.
You too.